It's the holiday season once again, and while some of us are out enjoying festive good cheer and peace with our fellow human beings, there are certainly a number of people locking themselves in soundproof bunkers, determined to avoid a single note of merry music, or so much as a scrap of festive food. For those grumpy Grinches, we present a list of the worst festive, Christmas and holiday themed games out there, to bring an evil smirk to even Ebenezer Scrooge himself. You know, before the whole transformed by ghosts thing. I'm Will, with Clickist, and here are 10 lumps of indie coal. Nothing better to start off a list with than a little elf harm. Elf Bowling is a game about bowling and cruelty, specifically cruelty to a bunch of the most annoying creatures that any game has ever featured. You might think that because they're annoying, this means the game is at least cathartic, but trust me, it's not. There have apparently been several different versions of this game, but the one featured here tells the story of elves going on strike. To break the strike, Santa starts throwing bowling balls at them, and for some reason other elves are involved. It's a pretty paper-thin premise to excuse the bowling simulation, and doesn't really add anything. They might as well have just reskinned any bowling game and left the story out entirely. Elf bowling is insanely annoying, thanks partially to the noises made by the elves you're trying to bowl over.
We're in position. We didn't like them anyway.
But mostly because it takes 20 minutes to finish a single level. Wow. Maybe you'd have some fun out of playing the 2-player mode, but you'll probably be turning it off and deleting the entire game from your hard drive after a few boring repetitive rounds. Also, why is Santa in his underwear? This is starting a dangerous precedent of Father Christmas removing his trousers. Speaking of which, what's the first thing you think about when you think of the holidays? Turkey? Mistletoe? A fat guy performing home invasions? Well, I bet it's not pooping. Unless you're from Catalonia anyway. Pooping, however, is the central theme of Santa's Special Delivery, a Steam game about what Santa gives to the really naughty kids. In the game, you fly from left to right, flinging presents, coal or elves, depending on how good or bad each kid has been. Then, when you get to the end, you find a house and take a massive crap down their chimney. The game itself isn't all that horribly made or anything. The pixel graphics are pretty appealing, at least when they don't feature torrents of liquid feces. The real horror here is to be found in the subject matter. Maybe if you've got the right sense of humour you'll enjoy it, but it's quickly boring and certainly not the sort of thing that your family will want to gather around on a cold winter's night. Oh boy, where to even start with this one? The Turkey of Christmas Past is a game about a giant anthropomorphic cat running around a medieval landscape with a sword, slaughtering turkeys. The bonkers premise is preceded by an even more bonkers story. Tom is a cat, and one Christmas Eve he spots an evil turkey called the Turkey of Christmas Past, who he chases through a portal to save Christmas. Right. You're then basically dumped into a castle with a sword and have to fight wave after wave of ugly looking turkey warriors. You grab mousetraps, for some reason, which act as AoEs, and kunais for ranged attacks. Other than that, you have to hack, slash and dodge your way through the place, killing turkeys to unlock doors. There's almost no Christmas theming to this game, and it kind of feels like someone made it as a joke, then had to think of a story and a way of selling it to people on Steam. The combat is simple, the one level in it is long and confusing, and the entire thing feels like a clunky mess. I mean, how did this even get made? Look at this! How? I'm using Christmas Wonderland 4 to represent this entry, but you can substitute it for any Christmas themed item hunting game. This genre has been quote unquote popular on Steam for a while now. In fact, you can usually find a few of these hanging around most people's Steam libraries, from sales or bundles. Basically, they've taken a bunch of pictures and shoved them full with other pictures of random objects. Then they give you a list and tell you to find everything on it. That's the entire game. You find stuff, you click it, you keep finding stuff, you do this for about 4 hours and then you're done, both with the game and also with your life. There is nearly nothing to these games. It's almost like the word casual isn't enough to describe them. Maybe we should call them catatonic, games with so little gameplay that it's hard to tell if there's actually any life there. Some of you might have family members that watch those pretty horrendous Hallmark-style holiday movies. You know the ones. Stories about sickeningly attractive people having the perfect romance or the perfect lives. But also, it's Christmas! Well, Delicious, Emily's Christmas Carol, is basically the video game equivalent of that. You play as Emily, a woman who has it all. A good relationship with an attractive husband, a perfect child, and of course her own restaurant, apparently situated in her own massive back garden. The game plays like a Christmas version of those restaurant phone games, but even simpler. Someone comes in, a bubble appears over their head stating what they want, then you give it to them and collect the money. Do that about 1,000 times, and you've got the experience of Emily's Christmas Carol. The story is as twee as it sounds as well. It's all about some Christmas play going on at the kid's school, and she wants to be an angel in it or something. Honestly, it's vapid and annoying, so you can ignore it. While you're doing that, just ignore the game. It's far too basic to be fun, and on top of that, they decided to include over 100 levels of this. This is another entry that doesn't refer to any single game. This instead is a slot reserved for all of those games out there which are just reskins of other games, cynically covered in Christmas skin to catch some holiday sales. Whether it's Breakout, Space Invaders, or even friggin' Rock Band, there is no genre that hasn't had a cynical attempt made to cheapen it. Honestly, some of these aren't actually that bad. Santa Rockstar HD, for instance, is a fun little rhythm game, and the graphics are nice and appealing. It's basically Threats on Fire, but with metal and rock renditions of Christmas songs, so if you're into metal, maybe it'll be fun. But for every good, or at least good-ish game, there are the terrible ones too. Chicken Invaders 3 Christmas Edition is one of the terrible ones. It's your basic Space Invaders clone, but all of your enemies are chickens. The only thing that even makes this kind of Christmassy is the outfits that the chickens wear while you shoot at them. The worst part is that this game isn't even an original Christmas game. The devs literally just took their already existing game and put Christmas hats on chickens. Okay, so maybe it shouldn't make you as mad as it makes me, but still, these games are cheap and low effort, not exactly the sentiment that you want expressing during the season of giving. I sort of feel bad about this one. There's not really all that much wrong with Christmas Eve Crisis. It's a game about Santa crash landing in the wilderness thanks to his newfangled sleigh and losing all of the presents. To save Christmas, you have to run around collecting and delivering the presents so that you don't disappoint any kids on Christmas morning. The biggest offence that this game commits is that it's clunky and sort of dull. The camera is pulled really close to the character so it feels claustrophobic, the jumping and running mechanics are really simple, and the levels almost all consist of either the same or very similar assets. If you have a very young kid at home, they might actually enjoy this one, but I doubt anyone with a fully developed brain would. It is at least free, so you don't have to worry about sinking any money into it. Holiday Escape is a free game on Steam which is a self-described casual game about trying to escape from a giant ball of snow while being a snowman. It's basically like someone took a single level from Crash Bandicoot, changed all the visuals, and whacked it on Steam. It's on this list for being badly made, lacking very much gameplay at all, and feeling just gross to play. If you want something to take up space in your Steam library, it might be a good option however, as it is another free game. There's nothing that says Christmas more than abject terror. Other than pooping, as we discussed earlier. Jokes aside, there have been a few horror-tinged pieces of Christmas media that have been quite successful, like Santa's Sleigh or Black Christmas. Krampus takes its name from a Central European folklore, and is a horror game based on the concept that the titular monster, the Krampus, is coming after you on Christmas Eve. The game is a first-person horror game, in a similar style to Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but with much less polish. The main issue is that the game just isn't all that scary and is buggy as hell. On several occasions I fell through the floor and died while playing, and the first time the monster showed up I couldn't even tell it was supposed to be the monster. The game plays clunky and fails to bring either Christmas cheer or holiday themed scares. On top of all that, the game actually crashes beyond the basement scene and is therefore completely unplayable. Good. Okay, before we get into this properly, I want to give a quick honourable mention to another game which was very similar but didn't freak me out enough to win the top spot. The Thing with Mistletoes is a very poorly written visual novel game about a girl and her little brother being left alone at Christmas. It's free on Steam if you want to see what I mean by badly written, but it is at the end of the day just a slightly dull visual novel with some light thriller elements, which means it's not quite as bad as Adolescent Santa. Wow, this game was creepy. It's not supposed to be, just to make that clear. It's basically a very short visual novel about a young man who hates his own life and hates Christmas because he lost all of his hopes and dreams. Randomly, a girl dressed in a school uniform, because of course she is, appears in his room. The girl turns out to be Santa. And then the game gets really weird. Basically, the game sexualizes Santa Claus, which is more than a little odd. In fact, it wouldn't be so bad, because at times they make it seem like Santa in this universe is different from the Santa figure we know in ours. But at one point they made it clear that at heart this young, scantily clad girl is still the traditional Santa. Let that sink in. This at least vaguely sexualized character, who we see in a few different suggestive poses, is actually this old, fat, bearded white guy who puts on a schoolgirl outfit and turned into a schoolgirl. Once you get that taste of bile out of your mouth, you realise that the game is not only free, but also super short. It lasts less than 20 minutes and has no replay value at all, but it's hard to ignore the whole gender-swapped old fat man side of things. I went into this game expecting the worst, and I pretty much got it. So, we finally reached the end of this absolutely terrifying list. I'm going to go and take a deep bath of tinsel and mulled wine. Which games on this list have you tried? Are there other holiday-themed stinkers out there? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more. If you really like us, share us with your friends. And if you want even more Christmassy content, feel free to check out my channel.